to Unapologetically Fierce with Faith, brought to you by CKJ Live. This is a safe place where my beloved tribe members and I put anything and everything on the table and dish the unfiltered tea. We are not just a podcast, we are a movement. So get your favorite beverage on hand and enjoy the show.
Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Happy podcast day. How's everybody doing this week?
Doing great.
Everything good. Excited about today.
Yeah, I'm excited too, because today we're kicking off our series on self-care. Last week, we each got the chance to tease the areas of self-care that we're planning to focus on this year. And I get to start things off by talking about something that's very near and dear to me, and that is exercise. As much as, self-care should be about the internal work that we do, keeping your mental health balanced and finding and doing things that bring you joy. I also think self-care, it really is about taking care of this vessel that we call our body. Honestly, a healthy body is usually the first step, and I would argue the most important step towards an overall healthy life. So I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit about my fitness journey. But before I do that, I do have a question for the tribe. What is your favorite form of exercise? And I'm going to start with you, Carrie. Can't wait to hear what yours is.
Awesome. You know what? My favorite form is the elliptical machine. I feel like it's a 2-in-1. I get my body going, the heart rate up, and after 30 minutes, I felt like I did a lot of cardio. So I would say that's my go-to thing, the elliptical.
Yeah, elliptical is good for like bang for your buck. You get a lot of calories burned in a short amount of time. Yes. How about you, Tam? What's your favorite form of exercise?
I feel like I'm like the complete opposite of Carrie. Like the elliptical is great in theory, but that just standing there running in place just drives me a little crazy. I'm more of the high energy classes. I'm more of a soul cycle, spin, Zumba, something with a lot of music and a lot of energy, because I thrive off of other people's energy. So I may not be feeling it, but if homegirl next to me is doing it and I'm like, well, I don't want to be the one that's not. So I'm going to pedal even harder just to keep up with her. So I think I get motivated by being around others. So definitely anything high energy. That's it.
Yeah. Classes are great. Great way to get in shape. You look around the room and say, she can do it, I can do it, or I'm going to do better than her. So that's a great.
Somebody was the guy in the back of the class, like not doing anything. So it's just like, if she's doing it, I'm going to do it too. And I may die later, but it's all good.
Yeah, I'm going to go hard too. How about you, Faith? Do you have a favorite form of exercise?
I like HIIT. I've really become accustomed to like HIIT, the high interval intense training. And I like it because it has a lot to do with movement, as Tam mentioned, and like music, because I may not be, I may be watching something, and with being in this pandemic, I've been at home. So I've been watching, like downloading videos, and like Beachbody On Demand, Apple has their fitness. So it's like easier if someone is doing something and like they do like a split, they jump up and do a split, or they kick up in the air. I know, okay, I'm going to follow the modified version because I can't do that.
Yeah, well, HIIT is really a great form of exercise because it incorporates resistance training as well as cardio. So it's a great way to get like more bang for your buck, like we were talking about with the elliptical.
And it's a shorter amount of time too.
Right. Short, intense, you get it done much quicker. Exactly. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, ladies. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story or my history and what led me to fitness or exercising in general. As you ladies know, I grew up in a Puerto Rican household. Mom and dad are both Puerto Rican, and starch in our diet is like a huge staple, right? Most of our meals are based on rice, to be honest with you, or breads and potatoes, meat-based dishes, stews, things like that. There wasn't really ever an emphasis on fresh ingredients or vegetables, at least not the way I grew up. I think in Puerto Rican cuisine in general, but especially with my mom, who's a really picky eater, we never really had conversations about nutrition. And I really don't think my parents understood nutrition. I think they grew up in an era where, to be fed was to be healthy, period. You had a meal, that was good, period. It didn't matter that it was fried chicken or, nothing fresh, everything processed, right? But I grew up pretty skinny. I think most people that meet me as an adult would not realize that. I was very, very small growing up. I was actually really embarrassed about my body because I felt I had big kneecaps. That was just because my legs were so bony. So I really didn't have an understanding of how quickly someone could gain weight if they're not thinking about it. I just kind of figured I can eat whatever I want. It's not going to affect me. Most of my closest relatives were pretty average sized. Nobody was very extremely overweight. No one was too thin. That's just kind of all I saw. So I just assumed that was what awaited me. And I didn't really start gaining weight until I became a stay-at-home mom, which was around the age of 22. Before that, I had left when I was done with school. I started working a very demanding job in social work where I did a lot of home visits, up and down flights of stairs, just visiting multiple families in a day. So on average, I probably got 20,000 steps, maybe more daily. And then that halted immediately, and I became a stay-at-home mom with small kids. And at the time, I was still living in New York, in the city. This meant, anything you needed was within walking distance, probably on your same street, bodegas, laundromat, things like that. So I really didn't venture out much. And then, of course, we all know about the long, cold winters up in the city. So slowly the weight started to creep on as an adult. And I was really unprepared for it because I didn't have any sort of background or basis for how to fix it. And it wasn't drastic at first. It kind of happened slowly over time. It was 5 pounds here, 10 pounds there, add in some babies. But throughout this time, I did kind of venture into one of my first attempts to get fit. Initially, I started with resistance training, just light weights and bands and things like that. But my real success, the first time I experienced some success was with Pilates. And there's a bunch of principles from this kind of exercise that I still appreciate: core stabilization, free-flowing movements, things like that. But I had years and years of kind of yo-yoing between a normal body weight and then being heavy. But slowly that normal weight, how we all sort of have a reset point where if you're not really focusing on your weight, your body kind of hovers there. That number for me through the years just kind of slowly but surely started ticking up. So now my new normal weight's 5 pounds more than it used to be, 10 pounds more. So in a span of maybe 8 or 9 years, I packed on a solid 50 pounds. A lot of that happened after I moved to Florida in 2007. I had sporadic attempts during this time to get in shape. And when I have those attempts, I go 100% all in. It's I am on board fully. And there was a time, Faith mentioned Beachbody workouts. There was a time I was crazy enough to think I can attempt insanity. It's literally insanity. If anybody's ever seen the infomercials, the results they seem unreal.
Workout. It's
the perfect name for it. I was so badly out of shape, you guys. And it wasn't necessarily the heaviest I've ever been, but I was in poor shape. I just wasn't active. My heart wasn't ready. And it took me, and I'm not exaggerating, a solid week to recover from the pain and suffering of the first 2 workouts. So needless to say, that attempt fizzled out as soon as it started. All the money we spent on it, gone.
So funny. So, can I just interject? It's funny to say that because 50 pounds, as much as we think, my gosh, that's a lot, it's not impossible. And it's so easy. Factor in a few years of 5 to 7 pounds, and then 1 year where you have the 10 pounds, and then boom, you're 50, 60, 70 pounds heavier. And people think
it creeps on slowly.
Very, very slowly. You don't even actually see it. You're just realizing this clothes doesn't fit, or maybe I washed it, or something went wrong.
Yeah.
But over time, it's look at this.
Yeah. And if you're a mom like me and you're in you're not really necessarily wearing the same clothes every day, and you're in a lot of stretchy things, to be honest with you, wash and wear kind of clothes, it does start to creep up slowly. You don't really often recognize what's happening until you get to the doctor and you get on a scale and he knows your weight from last year. Or, you take a picture of yourself and you see yourself in something you've worn a million times and it looks different.
Yeah.
But, I dabbled. Yeah, the picture thing does not lie. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later too. I dabbled for years. I tried so many different programs. At one point I had a home gym in my 20s. I've had a rowing machine in the past, a treadmill, an elliptical machine carry. I've tried Pilates, yoga, a bunch of Beachbody programs, Zumba classes, calisthenics, you name it. I promise you, I've given it a whirl. But my favorite form of exercise has always been walking. Through the years, that's my go-to. It's something that, I can do with the little ones. I can pop them in the stroller. They can walk beside me. I can take my dog out for a walk. It's low impact, so there's not a lot of soreness involved. You can do it even when you're not feeling good. You can do this a couple times a day. And it gets me out in the sun, which you ladies know I really enjoy, especially here in Florida. It's a great way to burn calories. It's a good way to manage stress too. As a mom of 5, I have plenty of that. So it's a great way to just kind of unwind at the end of the day. And so it's always been a staple in my routine. Even now, I'm probably in the best shape I've ever been. And I walk probably an average of 10,000 steps a day, even when I'm not really trying, even though I go to the gym. But the truth is, I really didn't get serious about making a lasting change until around 2018. And this actually came about for a couple different things. It started with losing my father at the beginning of 2018. He died in January. He'd suffered a massive heart attack at the end of December. So that was obviously a tremendous loss in my life. And this was right around the same time that I was dealing with debilitating physical, pain, back pain. And it's really the kind of pain that honestly made me even consider hardcore drugs. I would joke with friends, if somebody offers me heroin right now, I'll take it. That's how bad it was. And I don't say that lightly. I don't mean to make a joke about it, but anybody who's dealt with nerve pain knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's the worst kind of physical pain you can be in. So it was a bad low in my life. I was dealing with the emotional pain of losing my dad and the physical pain as well. And so my marriage started to suffer. It was a very difficult time for me. So what started to happen was I also found myself feeling pretty scared about my future, especially after losing my dad. In my immediate family, and I'm talking, my parents and siblings, there's diabetes, heart disease. I have my oldest sister had a stroke at 42, which is around the age I am now. My oldest brother, who's only in his 50s, had a minor heart attack a couple years ago. I've lost one sister to brain aneurysm, another brother to cancer. My mom has diabetes. I lost my dad, as I mentioned. So I just really had this strong feeling in 2018, if I don't do something now, something drastic, this is what awaits me. This is the road that I'm walking down. So I'm telling you that to say this became the catalyst for me to make the necessary changes, really get my shit together. That's how I'll put it. I woke up one day, late September, probably early October. And I remember me and Faith went to the beach and hung out one day. And it was just sort of boom, that's it. I'm doing this. Just literally one day to the next, I just decided I was going to change, cleared out the fridge. I'm focused. And I really wanted to find something that I was going to stick with, because starting a program is not a problem for me. Trying new things, not a problem. Sticking with it, that's the hard part, right? So that's something for me ended up being weight training. I had a treadmill at home at the time, some light weights, 5 and 10 pound dumbbells. And I started kind of messing around with them. And then I started to focus on what I was eating. That was all over the place in the beginning, but, I started zeroing in on what worked for me. And ultimately I landed on high protein, low carb. That's that conversation we can have another day. But while I was happy experimenting with the diet part of it, I knew I needed guidance on what to do with the fitness part. So at first I worked out at home. I did that for about 2 months and lost 20 pounds, which I was very happy about. You're obviously moving in the right direction. And I had this vivid feeling I'm doing this for me. No one can take credit for it. And I don't give a shit about anybody's approval about it either. That is such a great place to be when you're really focused on something and you want it. So that led to me walking into a gym one day and hiring a trainer. My trainer, Ron, became a best friend to me, and I still to this day meet up with him periodically to work out. In the 10 months that I worked out with Ron, I only missed one workout. So I was diligent, super consistent. I was just like a sponge. I wanted to learn everything I could, soak it all up. So I stuck with my plan. And this part, ladies, is huge. It wasn't just sticking with the plan. It was being patient, because I think that's where a lot of us get derailed. You have to trust the process. There were months I literally was working my ass off and nothing was happening on the scale, but I kept at it. And I kept going and I kept being diligent and doing what my trainer was teaching me to do. And eventually I reached my goal, which was 60 pounds from where I started. So now that you know my backstory, I have a question for you ladies. Does anybody in this group have a fitness routine? If so, please share with us. If not, what are some of the obstacles you think that might be keeping you from adopting one? And I'll start with Carrie again.
Excellent. So funny you say this. First of all, your story is very inspiring and very relatable. I hear so many things that I recognize and I could identify with. So thank you so much for sharing that. But my daughter and I, about a month ago, started doing YouTube exercise as it was recommended by one of my friends. So we do this program. Her name is Lucy. It's all body workout, and it's not HIIT, but it's really short intervals, which makes it very doable for me. I have very little time. So my daughter and I have been doing that for a whole month, and I'm so proud of us. And a couple weeks ago, my husband actually bought a treadmill. I had no idea he was doing that, but he did buy a treadmill, and I have been getting on it, and so has my daughter. So I'm walking and running on it, and my goal, of course, is to run, but I enjoy it. Exercise has not always been my big thing. I do have a gym membership. However, I don't always have the time to go to the gym, and I would walk outside, but I'm afraid of dogs. It sounds really crazy, but between the dogs and the coyotes and everything else out there, I just am in fear. So something at home was exactly what I needed. And I'm so grateful because she just told me, hey, check this out. And she sent it to me in a text. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to dedicate myself. And my daughter and I have been doing it for a month. So yeah, awesome. I do have one now.
That's so awesome. Very proud of you guys. How about you, Tam? Do you have a routine? If not, what's stopping you from adopting one?
Well, I'm not going to lie. I fell off a little bit from my routine, but I started off really strong at the beginning of this whole lockdown quarantine situation. Like I told you guys earlier, I'm into the group environment and having that motivation feeding off the energy of other people. Sure. So it was a little difficult at first to kind of motivate myself because I'm I'm here, I'm home, I'm alone. My husband's here, but he's not working out with me. So I'm just kind of okay, well, what do I do? But like Carrie, I turned to YouTube and, not an ad, but the company that I like is Pop Sugar Fitness. I like them because it's usually 3 or 4, people there. They have music. They have the version in the back if you need to adapt. If like Faith said, I'm not going to be jumping in the high kicks anytime soon. So I'm going to do what the girl in the back is doing and just kind of adapt accordingly. But I find that works for me. I have fallen off a little bit. I will blame the dog because it's kind of hard to kind of get a thing going when he's I want to do exercise too, Mom. So it's all right.
Yeah, he sees you on the ground. He wants in. He's like, playtime? Let's go. Yeah, he's a puppy.
Now he's on top of me and I can't see what's happening. So I'm okay. But no, I'm not going to let that deter me because I did see the results and I did how, once your mom tells you oh, you look like you've lost weight, that's all the motivation I need. So I feel that's going to keep me going. So I'm going to get back on track with that.
Awesome. How about you, Faith?
Well, as I said before, with the first question, I've been doing Beachbody on Demand, and I've been really trying to be creative being at home because the only thing I do, I do work outside, but that's the only time I really go outside because of this whole pandemic. So I've been creative in getting going on Beachbody on Demand. And they have thousands, tens of thousands of fitness things that you can actually go through. I don't feel like I'm going to be anytime soon in insanity. I'm not insane, so I will not go there. But, and even I found that I have an Apple Watch and Apple has their own Apple Plus Fitness. So I'm even trying to dabble because I'm again, looking at my watch, I'm okay, how many, I can't get, my doctor's okay, yeah, you need 10,000 steps. I'm on a good day, I could probably get 6,500, but hey, it's a work in progress.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's important to have goals, right? So even knowing that if you just try to beat the 6,500 by one step each day, little by little, you can build on that. So thank you, ladies, for sharing that. I'm so proud of all of you for making the attempt and recognizing what you need. So I'm going to share a little bit about what's worked for me and my routine, because I know this may help anybody that might be listening. The first thing is I got help. Most of us try to go it alone, and honestly, I think if you can and you can stick with it, you probably would have already. So it's important to reach out and just find people that you can connect with that will be able to help you. I found somebody I truly trust fully, and that's my trainer. I think I hit it out of the gate from day one with the trainer. I connected with him, but I do recognize that I'm very fortunate in that I was able to have that as a resource and that I could work with him for as long as I have, because I know that's not the case for a lot of people. It was a huge investment that I made in myself and I needed it at the time. But for those who can't, there are so many free resources available out there. As you ladies have all mentioned, YouTube is such a fantastic resource because you can pull it up on your phone. You have it on your laptop. There's so many of these smart TVs that have it available. And there are people on YouTube, fitness professionals, who are providing free programs with schedules, routines, how-to videos, modifications, etc. It's a really great way to start. You can work from the comfort of your own home while you learn the movements, and start to really find out what works for you. The second thing is I joined the gym. And again, I get that for some people that would be an expense and their budget may not allow that. But there are so many great gyms like Planet Fitness that start as low as $10 a month. And it could be a really great way to invest in yourself and give you some accountability. If you need to work out at home just to get started, because I know a lot of people are really shy about walking into the gym and not knowing what they're doing, so many resources available as well on what the machines are like at these gyms and what they do and which ones you should use and how, etc. But even if you cannot afford a gym, it costs $0 to take a walk around the block or to just, go up the stairs a couple times a day if you do have stairs where you live. Another thing is I started setting small non-scale related goals. They had nothing to do with my weight. Now, that was a big factor for me because that's how you know if you're making progress. But these goals, I would do things like if I'm shopping at Target and I see a pretty dress, I'm going to buy it in a size smaller than I know I fit in at the moment. It's not going to fit me at the moment, but I know it will eventually. And that was so motivating because when you put something on that you couldn't get on before, now you can zip it. That's like, this just makes you want to go harder, at least for me. Another thing I did was I took tons of progress pictures. I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier. That in the beginning is super uncomfortable because you're having to face every flaw. And of course, your brain zeroes in on all of them. But I promise you that it is so important because most of the time your eyes play tricks on you. You don't see the changes other people see because it's subtle. You live with your own body. Again, you pick up on all the flaws first. But when you see it in photographs, it's kind of hard to deny. So, ladies, take the pictures in your underwear, in your bathing suit, naked, whatever. Just take the pictures. I promise you're going to look back in a couple months and be so glad that you did. And then another thing is I just started lifting weights. And I'm not talking baby weights, ladies. I'm talking barbells, like heavy weights, leg presses of like 450, 540 pounds at one time, stuff like that. And I started incorporating cardio most days of the week. Another pointer is, I really started making activity a big focus in my life. I work at a desk 40 hours a week, like a lot of us. And I work from home. So getting active has to be really intentional for me because otherwise I get off my desk chair and go sit on the couch. And what I started to do is, and this is very cliche, we've all heard this, but like park in the back of a parking lot. Take the extra steps. If there are stairs available in an elevator, try going up a couple flights and then the elevator the rest of the way. Just these little things do start to add up and make a change for those people who don't have the time to incorporate like an hour routine at the gym. But the biggest thing that I did was I found something that I was passionate about. It ended up that it was lifting weights. As I said, I've tried a lot of different things. I've loved them all, but lifting weights does so much for my mental health and for my anxiety issues, which is a whole nother story. If I didn't have the gym when my anxiety disorder kicked off, I don't know where I would be. And I don't say that lightly either. But I also love the physical transformation I'm seeing. In the beginning, I was nervous about lifting weights because I think we all feel like we might get bulky. The truth of the matter is we're not genetically predisposed like that, ladies. I'm here to comfort you. The women you see that look like that do that on purpose. They're probably taking supplements. They may have some gene that makes them bulk up easily, but putting on muscle as a woman is difficult. The contrary, I think, is true. You can really sculpt the curves that you want by lifting weights. So don't be afraid to get in there. Even if you don't have to lift heavy weights just because I do, but play around with it. I think building muscle does so much to give you the kind of body that you want. And I want to be able to be a fit old lady someday. Right. COVID did its best to stall my progress. I did regain some of the weight, like so many people in quarantine. But I really started off this year dedicating myself to getting really back into it, remembering my why. Something my trainer always told me is, why are you doing this? And then when we got to the bottom of my why, it was like, hang on to that, because when you lose focus and you forget why you're doing it, you have those days where the motivation escapes you, you remember the why, what that reason is. And for everyone, it's different. Like I said, for me, it was that moment of fear of knowing the future that awaited me of like poor health if I didn't do something to get better. Mm-hmm. So I remember that. My mantra has been throughout my entire fitness journey is set a goal, smash a goal, repeat tomorrow. And that mindset has done so much for me going into 2021. So my routine today is I do about 5 or 6 days a week of weight training, as I've mentioned a million times. I go to my local gym to do this, and then I do about 20 minutes of cardio a couple times a week while I'm there at the gym. I walk around my neighborhood almost daily. I'll do that in the middle of my day or sometimes in the evening before bed. But then I take a rest day. My Sundays are my rest day. I do not think about fitness. I don't go to the gym. I might sometimes be active, but I'm not necessarily working out. I think rest days are super important for, muscle development and just giving your time to focus on other areas of self-care. Yeah. So I'm just here to tell you, ladies, we can do whatever we put our minds to. And this year, my focus is hitting it hard, running a marathon and finishing one. And that's my version of self-care. So I hope that's, maybe inspired or given anybody out there some ideas.
I'm inspired. I'm ready.
Yeah, ladies.
I'm ready.
I hope so. Well, I hope I did our series right, but I hope I did it well by kicking us off with some exercise talk. I am looking forward to next week. Next week, we get to have Carrie discuss some finances and why this is such an important part of taking care of ourselves. So thank you so much, ladies. Thanks for joining us, everybody out there.
This is great. Thanks, honey.
Thank you for joining us at Unapologetically Fierce with Faith, brought to you by CKJ Live. Come back and visit again to hear more of the unfiltered tea that we are ready to dish. And remember, we are not just a podcast, we are a movement.